Water Agency for May 20th to order. Little housekeeping here. Please, if you're going to be participating, keep your microphone muted until you're called upon. I will be calling directors in the following order for roll call: Director Gracia, Director McKenna, Secretary Treasurer Bloomer, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega. All votes will be conducted via roll call. And now I would like to ask Director Bloomer if she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Ms. Hoffman, will you please do a roll call?
Director Gracia,
Present.
Director McKenna,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Present.
Vice President Bowman,
I'm here.
and President Ortega.
Present.
All present.
All right. A little bit more housekeeping here. We have our public comment on items not on the agenda. Members of the public may comment on any item not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the agency. Speakers are requested to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes. As provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have any public comments not listed on the agenda?
No public comments have been.
Very good. And then public comments on items listed on the agenda. Members of the public may also comment on items listed on the agenda that are not subject to the public hearing at this time. Speakers are limited to keep to no more than 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments on items listed on the agenda?
None have been received.
Wonderful. That takes us to 6, consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion of the board without discussion. Right now, I'd like to ask if there are any board members that want to pull any of the items on the consent calendar. Hearing none, then I would ask for a motion.
Move the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
We have a first, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. That takes us to number 7, our draft engineer's reports for the West White Water.
Thank you, Vice President Bowman and members of the board. So as you're all aware, each year, Desert Water Agency law requires that a report is prepared for the board. And this report is an engineering survey report that deals with our groundwater supplies for the agency. It has things that deals with the groundwater supplies, the need for replenishment, and also recommendations for any replenishment program, including source and the amount of replenishment water and the cost of purchasing, transporting, and spreading that water. DWA law also states that if the board determines that funds should be raised by a replenishment assessment, it shall call a public hearing and shall publish notice at least 10 days in advance thereof. Today, I have Travis Romaine with Krieger & Stewart. He is an engineer with our consulting firm. He prepared our draft report for the board. And in a little, after I go over the staff report, I'll have Travis take over and he'll go through some high-level view of the report. But some of the highlights in the staff report, DWA has proposed that the replenishment assessment rate for fiscal year 2025-2026 is $235 per acre foot for both the West Whitewater and Mission Creek subbasins. Just to put things in context, the CVWD, their proposed replenishment rate for the Whitewater subbasin is $165.37, which is no change. And also for the Mission Creek subbasin, their rate is $135.52. Again, both of those are no changes. The last increase that was implemented by the agency was back in June of 2024, which currently is $215 per acre foot. And that was the second approved increase that was included in a 5-year rate study that was completed in 2023. The $235 per acre foot is a $20 increase, which is the proposed rate, which is in our current schedule of proposed increases as adopted in 2023. It will be the third increase if approved by the board. So the actual effective assessment rate, which this would be the rate that would generate enough revenue for the agency to cover the Table A charges and the administrative and general costs, is $293 per acre foot. So the $235 is intended to partially stabilize the water rate, and we will continue to rely on using our State Water Project reserves account to make up the difference. The fiscal impact, so based on the estimated production figures for Whitewater and Mission Creek subbasins, as indicated in the report, at $235 an acre foot rate, will produce just under $10.5 million in revenue for the general fund. And this would be an increase of $893,600 as compared to the current $215 per acre foot rate. And this rate will also increase the source of supply expense in the operating fund by $677,000, producing a net fiscal impact to the agency of $216,400. Finance Director Sines has reviewed this report. And today, what staff is recommending, there's three items that staff is recommending. Number one, that the board receive the draft engineer's report for fiscal year 2025-2026 for both the West Whitewater River and Mission Creek subbasins. Number two, a request a determination be made that funds should be raised by a replenishment assessment. And number three, set the time and place for a public hearing on June 17th, 2025, to consider resolutions of findings of facts and levying replenishment assessment for fiscal year 2025-2026. It should be noted that a notice of public hearing will be published in the public record on June 3rd, and a notice of public hearing will be sent out to all producers who are producing over 10 acre feet of production. And at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Travis, and he'll go over just some highlights of the report.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board, for letting me be here today. As General Manager Johnson mentioned, I am Travis Romaine with Krieger and Stewart. This is my first year preparing the report basically on my own. I had worked with Dave last year on preparing the report. This year, he helped a little bit here and there, but for the most part, he is enjoying retirement and wanted to let me kind of take the lead on things. So did want to touch on a few key points with the report here, beginning with the condition of the groundwater levels in the various sub-areas, beginning with in the West Whitewater River subbasin, the Palm Springs sub-area. Overall, this area has had fair amount of volatility in water levels, but there has been a general upward trend since the mid-2000s with a substantial upward trend in the last 3 years. This is largely believed to be linked to the replenishment program. For the next system, subbasin, the San Gorgonio Pass subbasin, there has been and that's next slide, Exhibit 2. There's been a slow, steady decline since the 80s in this basin. It is largely believed that the replenishment efforts are helping, but this area is subject to quite a bit of influence from the San Gorgonio Pass management itself. So there is somewhat limited effects on the replenishment efforts in impacting this particular subbasin. Next subbasin, the Garnet Hill subarea, has been very steady, seeing a slightly increasing water level since the 80s. This is directly linked to the replenishment efforts. Next area, the Mission Creek subbasin. This area has seen some increase, fairly steady water levels since the late 2010s. But what's particularly notable in this area is it appears that the replenishment efforts are keeping the water levels very steady. They haven't been seeing much volatility, and that is believed to be attributed to the replenishment in that area. Now, as far as the impact of the replenishment efforts in regards to just natural, non-artificial inflow, the report does include 2 figures for each of the main subbasins. For West Whitewater River, the non-artificial inflow is only 59,000 acre-feet, far less than the amount that is being produced from that basin. For Mission Creek, the non-artificial inflow is only around 6,000 acre-feet, far less. These two combine for a net total non-artificial inflow of only around 65,000 acre-feet. If we go to look at the production, which is the first table in the slides, the groundwater production and the surface water diversion is approximately 171,000 acre-feet. So substantial discrepancy there between the two. In total, without the non-artificial recharge, if we just look at natural occurring inflow and just return of consumption water, we're looking at a net decline of approximately 106,000 acre-feet in the year of 2024. However, with artificial recharge, which totaled last year approximately 297,000, there was a net increase of 191,000 acre-feet into the basin. Last year was a better year than some of the recent drought years we have seen. So this is water that can be banked for as future droughts set in. Now, regarding the projected financials for the 2025-2026 period, as Mr. Johnson had mentioned, the Table A assessment is based on a assessable production of 44,680 acre-feet to come up with that Table A assessment rate of $229 per acre-foot that he had cited. However, when you factor in the actual RAC costs that include the admin and operational costs, it comes to a total of $293 per acre-foot. That is the cost of operating the program. Therefore, the proposed rate of $235 per acre-foot is still short of that amount, so funding does still have to be pulled from the reserve accounts. But with the continued yearly increase at the projected rate of $20 an acre-foot, the program is expected to reach equilibrium, and currently in fiscal year 2029-2030, when the replenishment rate reaches a point of $315 per acre-foot. For the report itself, beyond that year, we are just showing modifying the rate by $5, $10, or $15 an acre foot just to balance out each year's budget from there on. But at that point, we'll have to come up with a year-by-year plan once we get to that point. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Travis. And with that, if that concludes our report. If the board has any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, Director Gracia, any questions?
On the San Gorgonio Pass portion of this, could you elaborate a little bit on why you think that particular area? I believe they just started doing recharge up there. I know they just built a facility. I don't know if that's going to have an effect on that, as it seems that flows down this way, the topography and so forth. So I just wonder if you have any thoughts on whether that's even fixable.
It is expected that their efforts in that basin will have an impact. There is currently an ongoing project to bring imported water for recharge into the Cabazon area.
Right.
Cabazon is expected to see some growth in the coming years.
Right.
The county has notified them to expect it, but it is anticipated that once those systems and facilities are in place, that water ultimately will fill their basin and start flowing downhill. The hydraulic gradient would bring the water into this basin. So yes, it will have a long-term beneficial impact is the expectation.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Anybody?
Director McKenna?
A couple of questions, really for staff, I think. It mentions the Tulare Lake purchase and Kern County purchase of water. Is that forever, or is there a limit on that, time limit on that?
That is forever.
Right, okay, good.
Yeah.
My only question is, these rates would, if we pass it today, are effective July 1st, correct?
We're not taking a vote to pass today.
Not, but I mean, if we're,
Yes.
if public hearing, if everything goes, then it's effective
Yes.
July 1st.
If eventually passed, yes, it will be July 1st effective.
Thank you.
I do not have any questions. President Ortega, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Very good. Then do I understand that you're recommending three things? Is this requiring a vote from us today?
Yes, there is an action item required for, you can take them all three in one swoop.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to take them all three in one swoop.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation of all three items.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. We had a voice from the sky saying they would accept it. And then any other discussion? If not, then a roll call vote, please.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That takes us then to number 7, an action item. And it is actually 8, a public hearing for Assembly Bill 2561. This item is heard in accordance with the AB 2561, which mandates public utility agencies conduct a noticed public hearing each fiscal year prior to budget adoption and present information on the status of their job vacancies, recruitments, and retention efforts. Human Resources Director Hopping will present information to comply and provide transparency related to these considerations. The public will be afforded an opportunity to speak and provide their testimony and comments during the public comment during this hearing. Ms. Hopping, will you please present your report?
Thank you, Vice President Bowman and members of the board. As stated, this public hearing is going to be an annual event because of Assembly Bill 2561. So it was signed by the governor in September of 2024 and became effective January 2025. So this is the first time that we've had to do this. We have to do a verbal presentation to satisfy the legal obligations as part of a public hearing. There's no direct financial impact associated with this hearing. However, addressing recruitment and retention issues may involve future bargaining consideration and budgeting considerations that could be presented as necessary to the board. So Finance Director Science has reviewed the report. Legal reviewed the report and the presentation and did not have any concerns. So I'll present you with a summary, and then I have a quick PowerPoint for you guys. And our recommendation is that the board accept my report. So pursuant to Government Code 3502.3, we're required to do the following. At least once a year, have the public hearing. Before the Board of Directors, we present information regarding the status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts, and identify changes to policies that may affect those recruitment activities or any obstacles we're having to the hiring process. Because we do a budget every year, we have to have this hearing prior to the budget being approved every year. The employee organization participation, we allow the recognized employee organization for each bargaining unit to make presentations during this hearing. We have one bargaining unit, and there is a typo. It's Teamsters Local 1932, not 1931. And they represent our general unit. We did invite them to present, and they were going to be here in attendance but not presenting, but something must have happened. So they were not here today, but they were advised. And there's an additional reporting required if there's high vacancy rates within a single bargaining unit, if it's over 20% of the authorized full-time positions that are not filled, and upon the request of the organization that represents them, the agency has to provide additional information during the hearing involving total number of vacancies, number of applicants, average time to fill, and opportunities to improve compensation and working conditions for the bargaining unit. At this time, we don't have any vacancy rates within agency bargaining units meeting or exceeding 20%. Therefore, item 3 does not apply, and it's not included in the presentation. I do have some data points on those issues, though, for your information. The presentation has like I said, has the vacancy rate, number of vacancies and status, and other agencies, and information on our recruitment and retention efforts to have a quality, continually improving workforce. So I'm just going to go through my slides. So this is our public hearing for Assembly Bill 2561. So as I said, this was added to the effective January 1 to the Myers-Browne Act, the MMBA. That authorized local public agencies as defined to form, join, and participate in the activities of employee organizations or of their own choosing for the purpose of representation. So the MMBA allows employees to unionize. There's a statewide interest in ensuring that the public agency operations are appropriately staffed and that high vacancy rates do not undermine public labor relations. So we will present this information every year, at least once a fiscal year. If we had a multi-year budget, we would only have to do it every time before we adopt that budget. But we have to do the status, the recruitment and retention efforts, and policies and procedures that may lead to obstacles in the hiring process. And then I said if there's 20%, there's additional reporting obligations. Okay, so the selection process overview. So this is how we fill positions at the agency. So we create a requisition, get it approved by the general manager, finance director, make sure we have that body budgeted. And then we post the position internally, externally, or both. It just depends on the qualifications. We do have the ability to just promote from within. If we feel there's one qualified candidate, we can do that. We review their resumes and decide who we're going to interview. We usually try to narrow it down to 5 or 6 people to interview, just because more than that, you kind of forget people's qualifications in the interview process. And we definitely don't want to interview 100 people for one opening. And the panel usually consists of the supervisor for the position, or if there's an assistant superintendent, both of them will be in there with myself. And we have a set list of questions we ask everybody for fairness. We complete the interviews, and then we make a determination as to who we feel we should select for the position. We get it approved by the finance director, AGM, and GM, and then we make a job offer for the position. As of right now, we have 92 full-time budgeted positions. We filled 5 positions through internal promotion. 17 positions were posted and filled with a new hire. This is just during 2024. And the average time to fill positions via new hire was 60 days. And that's from posting all the way through the interview to start date, which is pretty good. You can go to the next one. Wait, go back one, sorry. So right now, we currently have a whole 1 open position, which is great. So our vacancy rate is 1%. The vacancy is in the Teamsters unit. The position is vacant due to the employee getting a job much closer to home. So we were sad for that to happen, but we can't move the agency. So the staff engineer position, this has changed since I put this presentation together. We extended out the deadline till next Monday because with our new Tyler system, there's a glitch with people not being able to upload resumes. So I extended it out. So we should be reviewing applications within the next couple weeks. So hiring issues and solutions. We are always looking at ways to get better recruitment, have better pipelines for talent. We usually look for specialty job places to post positions, such as the engineer position we have open because they're very technical. For the positions such as the water service worker, which is our entry-level construction position. That one we actually have our own talent pipeline that we've developed through the online portals. And when we switched to Tyler, we contacted everybody who had signed up through that portal so they could register with the new one. And that way they get a notification every time I post a job, and then they can apply if it meets their qualifications. So we did reach out to everybody who was already in that pool. The recruitment efforts, the recruitment process, we continually are trying to decide how we can make it quicker and easier because we don't want to wait very long to fill a position, obviously, but I know it's hard on the other side too. So I make sure I communicate with applicants as much as I would want to be communicated with if I was on the other side of that computer. It's really easy to ghost somebody in an online world, and we have an automatic reply when their application's received and submitted, an automatic reply if they don't meet the qualifications. I email them all whether they got an interview or not. So we're trying to be a good neighbor as far as that goes at all times. And we put our salary and benefits and classifications and job descriptions. Everything's on our online for people to review. With every posting, we put our benefits, including our enhanced benefits that we did this year with the contract with the ad pay and the one-time incentive pay and the retiree medical. And I think those have been really important for us for our recruitment efforts for sure. Advertising and outreach. Every time I can, I'm out there trying to get the word out. And yesterday I spoke at Cielo Vista Charter School to 5th graders, and it was a career day, so we talked about HR because nobody knows what we do. But I talked about how important a career in water is and trying to get the word out. And I always hand out a piece of paper with all the entry-level positions in each department and what the starting hourly salary is for that position and the minimum qualifications. And I do that so that they take that home and hopefully share it with other people. And I put the word out that we exist and we're a great place to work. So, and I think it's working at least a little bit. This is one of the girls that saw me at the school was like, I saw you last year. I told my dad. And I was like, perfect, get the word out. And then staff development is a big one. We are trying to promote from within, especially for the leadership level positions, because a known quantity is always better than somebody we don't know. We've had really good success in developing talent where we could, and we want to continue doing that. And I think that our staff is really, really a good staff, and we want to reward them for their good work. And then for retention information, so we had a total of 10 non-retirement separations last year. We had 4 retirements. So our separation rate is 15.21%, which is lower. The industry average is 20%, so we're happy with that number. I'd love it to be lower, but it is what it is. And our turnover rate, when you take out just count the resignations, is 6.52%, and that's awesome. That's really low, so we're happy with that number. And so with our retention efforts, we have an employee recognition program that's been very well received. People can nominate their coworkers or their supervisors can nominate them, or employees can nominate their supervisors, and they get a token of appreciation. And it does say token of appreciation on it because, you know, I got to do little puns wherever I can. And then they play a Plinko game and get a gift card. So it's been really well received. We do it at the all-staff meeting, and it's a lot of fun. Employee suggestion program, we offer cash incentives to the top 3 suggestions of the year, so that's always fun. The ad pay and one-time incentive I already mentioned. And then the benefits package and enhancements, we do this benefits survey every 3 years, which we just did. This last year, the increased benefits package, the traditional schedule, or the 980 work schedule options, which is nice. Wellness program, we have different Wellable, which is an online program that can do challenges, and we try to encourage people to have healthy behaviors, which will help them to have better attendance and be happier people. And the employee assistance programs, we have 2 employee assistance programs available, which are, they help you with anything going on in your life, any challenges. So it's counseling, it's identity theft assistance, it's legal help that's available to any employee that's on our benefits package. And we also have an added mental health benefit, which is Modern Health, and it's a group therapy that you can do online with people that are in the same situation as you. So if we have an employee who's going through a loss in the family, they call it a circle, and they're all moderated by a professional counselor, but they can go through it with people that are going through it together, which is a really nice added benefit. And the EAP and the Modern Health, those are completely anonymous. We never know who uses them, so which is perfect because I don't need to know what's going on that's personal. We just want to help them get through it so that they'll be okay. And that is it for my presentation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then we can go to the next step.
So, board discussion, Director Gracia?
Just curious, you may not know the answer, and that's fine, but do you know how they arrived at the 20% as being a point where we got to, what is it, report more often to their elected officials, or is it more serious than that?
From what I understood, it was because some places they felt were over budgeting to have a higher overall budget for ratepayers and things to elevate their costs.
Okay,
So they want to make sure that the budgeted positions are actually being filled and utilized. That was my understanding.
interesting. I noticed in San Diego at their San Diego Water Authority, they're at just at 8%, and I thought, oh, that sounds, like I was trying to, imagine what would be the number that would give me concern that something might not be right in the system. Then other agencies I'm familiar with is much higher than that. So it's, I guess what I'm saying is I have faith in the magic of this agency that's been created over decades, and make sure you let me know as a director in this board if you see us going in a direction that might cause trouble with continuing the way you have. That's it. Thanks.
Director McKenna?
I think it's a good report, great news. I'm always happy to see these internal promotions happening. We've had a few of those. It's important, I think, that you bring us this kind of information and remind us that our most important assets get in their cars and go home every night. So,
Yep.
Thanks for that.
Thank you for the report.
I have no questions. President Ortega?
I have no other questions, but yes, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Very good. Now I'm like to open public comment. Members of the public are invited to provide their testimony as it relates to this item as part of the public hearing process. Do we have any public comments in or out?
No public comments have been received.
Do we have any further board discussion on this point?
No.
All right. Then I will close public comment. Thank you to the public who have given their testimony related to this item. The public hearing and the discussion period have concluded. We will now proceed and ask for a motion.
I move staff recommendation.
We have a
right?
first.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Then all in favor, oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote, please.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. That takes us over to our illustrious General Manager's report. General Manager Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Vice President Bowman. So for our first report here, we've been busy here at the Operations Center. We've done some crack sealing and slurry coating of all of the asphalt pavement areas within the Operations Center. So that is the backyard area, the employees' parking lot, and then the front visitors' parking lot, which also included a new paint for the parking stalls and the handicap. So when you walked in today, hopefully you noticed that there's nice looking asphalt out there. I will also let you know that our sign is back from being refurbished and back up on the front there, and it looks great. This pavement work was in our budget and for $75,000. And the next item here, I just wanted to make a note here on May 14th, Governor Newsom made a pretty important announcement. He proposed that a streamline of the Delta Conveyance Project occur. And in this proposal, it would streamline the project by simplifying the permitting process, confirming funding authority, preventing unnecessary litigation delays, and supporting construction. So this was I consider a pretty bold statement from Governor Newsom, and hopefully this will gain some traction. The agency will be closed on Monday, May 26th for Memorial Day. And on May 28th, we will be holding another blood drive. So I know the last one was very successful, and we hope to continue that process there. And I know a lot of staff, probably 90%, if not more, is staff. Our system leak information. Farrell Drive, this is a location that is on what I call, it's not the main Farrell Drive portion of Farrell Drive. It's an area on the north end that has a small main, and we had 7 leaks on this one stretch. Again, a leak, we consider any type of hole in the pipe a leak, so there were some small little holes in this one particular area. And then we also, Indian Canyon Drives is an area that does have quite a few leaks. The area here that was leaking was some newer pipe, but this was, I believe, connecting pipe to the old pipe. So that is a weak point in the system. And we'll continue to monitor that area very closely. We spent just under 200 labor hours fixing these leaks. And the next item here is human resources activities. A lot of weekly safety check-in meetings with our safety officer, and just some activities, some Lincoln Financial web demos, and strategic planning meetings. And also, as Ms. Hopping mentioned, her presentation at Career Day at Cielo Vista Charter School. For general managers meeting, on the 7th, I, along with Assistant General Manager Tate and Finance Director Science, went into Riverside for an exchange agreement extension meeting with CVWD and MWD. Also had a strategic plan team meeting on the 14th. And there was a federal legislation update on the 19th. And with that, I'll conclude my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Director Gracia?
Thank you for the report. I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Director McKenna?
The question on the leak report, something leaps off the page at me, and it says Indian Canyon has some asbestos water main. So what's the story on that?
That was a pipe, that type of pipe was used in the early 70s. And it's a fairly stable pipe. We do have, I wouldn't say a large amount in the system, but it's again, it was a pipe that was authorized and approved back in early 70s, eventually being replaced by ductile iron pipe. It's stable in its condition. When it becomes a problem is if you have to cut it to do any type of removal of it. That's where it becomes airborne. That can cause, there's specific procedures that staff, construction crews have to follow to ensure that anything that is airborne is maintained. They wet it down and so forth. And we have to bring it back here, and it has to be hauled away by a authorized company.
But it's not a risk for the customer.
That's correct, yeah.
Good. That's it.
Director Bloomer?
No questions. I was wondering what part of Indian, but now I know it's the north part of Indian Canyon.
That's correct, yeah, on the map.
No questions from me. President Ortega, you?
No, none from me. Thank you.
Very good. That takes us then to director reports on meetings, events attended on behalf of the agency. Start with Director Gracia.
Thank you. Let's go back to this board meeting on the 6th and start off there. On the 9th, I attended a update from our county district attorney. Had a lunch that I was honored to be invited to attend. I did. There were several public officials from the area present. Our Senator Ochawa Bogue, I guess, and staff from all their offices. It was very, very interesting. He covered all of the things that his office is tracking legislatively in the state capitol. On the 12th, it was Desert Water Agency IT training. And on the 13th was the Coachella Valley Water District. I'll come back to that. That report deserves to be expanded upon. And then Aqua Climate Resilience Meeting, and that was on the 15th. So I have a little bit of a report on that as well. Climate Resilience in Action, Restoring Rivers and Flood Protection. This won't be on my events, you know. I won't be putting in for a stipend for this, but it was very, I think I hit my 10, I think is why, but it was very interesting on subjects of surface water in the state. At the Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting was an extraordinary meeting, probably the most impactful meeting I think I've ever attended or watched that they've had. And the final item on their agenda was the chromium-6 measures that they're planning to take to solve the problem in their district. The interesting part of this is that they've been given permission to, in the Desert Hot Springs area for Coachella Valley Water District, to use the Nancy Wright facility to dispose of their brine, which is contains chromium-3, which is, they'll take the chromium-6, they'll convert it to chromium-3, and then discharge it into the Nancy Wright facility, which perks into our water basin. From here to I'll consider Mr. Peter Nelson St. Peter. His question was very important on that subject about reactivation or reoxidation, and highlighting what we need to do to make sure that the chromium-3 doesn't revert to chromium-6. And it turns out that because of the manganese in our in our aquifer, chromium-3 is always converted to chromium-6, apparently. And so I don't know if their bench testing that they're planning is going to go beyond depositing the chromium-3 into the waste stream. It sounded like from their consultant's conversation that they were going to try to stop testing at that point, or their research would stop at the point where they discharge it. And that's the point where we need to be sure that that's not the end of it, that it's tested all the way through the system, because every time the manganese will turn chromium-3 into chromium-6. The science is way out and ahead of this at this point. And, you know, the amount of money that we spend to protect our surface water from people peeing in it, I mean, I don't know how much it is, but I know we've got security people that patrol our, we need to put the same effort in protecting our groundwater, which is 100% of our water, whereas the surface water is 5%. So we're going to have an interesting, and they're apparently going to have to report to their customers in October that they exceed the limit. So that's going to be an interesting change of events. There was a discussion at one point, I think at this meeting, on whether or not the Water Resources Control Board had the authority to allow that kind of activity. The idea was apparently back then that, well, they are the authority, so if they say it's okay to do that, it's apparently a crime to knowingly discharge a carcinogen into the drinking water. And we need to be ahead of this, because it's the most important job we have as directors, is to protect our drinking water. And with that, I thank you. And
Director McKenna?
Since the last meeting, I have attended the Association of California Water Agencies Spring Conference and Exhibition in Monterey on 13th, 14th, and 15th of May. I attempted to monitor the Mission Springs Water District meeting yesterday, but they moved it to 1 p.m. So when I logged in, they were 3 minutes away from adjourning. So I'm not going to be asked to be paid for that. But I will follow up by reading the minutes if anything interesting happens. And that's it for me.
Very good. Director, or Not Ortega, I knew you were. Director Bloomer.
Whoever you are, go
Yeah,
ahead.
right.
I also attended Aqua May 11th to the 15th. I first attended the JPIA meeting, which is our pooled insurance programs, among other things, that we participate in all 4 of the pooled programs: liability, property, workers' compensation, and the employee benefits program. The rates in all 4 programs are going up. Liability, because of, the larger things that have happened, fires, natural disasters that have gone on, same in property. And the employee benefits program, the self-funded PPO is expected to go up at least 10%. And then we also participate in one of their ancillary programs. It's not a pooled program, but you have to be a pooled program member in order to get access to these extra programs. And the one that we participate in is cyber liability. And that program's getting almost robust enough to become its own pooled program on its own. So cybersecurity insurance pooled program. They also reported that the California Water Insurance Fund, they have a separate entity investment program, and they reported that they were going to be able to pay itself a dividend of $22 million as of the end of 2024, I believe. So they've been doing really well. That's managed by a separate board from JPIA, and it's just in all the investments. So that helps subsidize some of the pooled programs and being able to keep our rates lower than most. So, and then I also attended the other part of the conference and went to some of the committee meetings, the Federal Affairs Committee, the Water Committee, among other things. So that's what I have to do. And there's very good attendance, I thought, at the conference, representation from all over the state. So it was a good meeting. And and then I also did some IT training on May 18th.
Very good. My report, I also attended the Aqua Conference. I always find them enlightening in many ways. A couple highlights. I went to the Communications Committee meeting, and I'm sorry, it was Water Management Committee, and somebody stated that during emergencies, most of the public did not know who their water provider was. And I applaud our district that we have great PR going out, Instagram, Facebook, and I thought it was really rather strange, but then again, we're in it. And it's easy for us to know that you turn the tap on and water comes out, and it's coming out from, provided by Desert Water Agency. Another little salient point on the Communications Committee, the Walnut Valley Water District presented a approach to customers using text messages. Not so much emails and not so much internet, but texting, because using a text message, their study came up with 98% of texts are read within minutes. Whereas you send an email, it may sit in somebody's inbox or spam box and never get read. And the point here is they were experimenting and using their text messaging system to notify users of high water usage. And instead of it being an email that could get lost, it was instantly there. And they were also using their text messages for turnoffs, warning customers they haven't paid their bill, and that when they implemented the text messaging, they had a 70% response rate. I mean, we know we have to go out and tag the house. We know we have to do all the other things, but the text seemed to get people's attention. So I just thought I'd bring that to us, to see if, that might be something we're interested in. And they were using Instagram influencers, and I found this interesting, that their target demographic was 34 to 39-year-old female, because they are there in Instagram, and it's a way, these are their words I'm quoting, to slip the message to an open-minded population. So if you're in that category of 24 to 39, you are indeed an open-minded population. And lastly, at the Aqua, I always enjoy interfacing with other districts. I see our Director Amber Duff is there from MSWD listening to our meeting. And it's a joy to interface with sister agencies and talk shop. The very last day, a Dan Keppen, Executive Director from the Family Farm Alliance, gave a presentation that in some ways gave more data to me about the farm world and water and broadened my horizon. And I could only say I think that that presentation is available on the Aqua website. It was definitely mind expanding for me. And that concludes mine. President Ortega, how about you?
Thank you. Good morning. So also attended Aqua Conference last week in Monterey. Two of the sessions that I spent the most time with and was probably the most interested, and coincidentally came out around the same time as Governor Newsom's statement about the Delta Conveyance Project. These were two sessions about the Delta. One was on the science and the various organizations doing research about the Delta, and as it has to do with native fish populations. It has to do with the health of the Delta in general. It has to do with a lot of different elements, a lot of different organizations that are involved in that data, that collection, and that research. The main point was it seemed to me that the main point was to get folks on the same page as it relates to trusting the information, and that for better cooperation between organizations like Department of Water Resources, like the State Water Project, like some of the farm groups that are supporting research in the South Delta in particular, which coincidentally I had seen the month before when Region 4 did its event on native fish populations and the effects of predatory fish on those fish populations, those native fish populations. So that was a very lively discussion. And then also another presentation on what's called the Great Valley Farm Water Committee, I think it might be, made up mostly of farmers and farm-related entities in the San Joaquin Valley and also in the Delta itself. This is an organization, this is sort of a self-created, self-funded organization that has been working for perhaps the last 5 to 10 years, I believe. Really meant, again, in the same sort of idea of building trust between different parties, not just between different, perhaps in some ways competing farm interests, but also competing interests with folks who are responsible for managing the Delta and the water supply moving its way south. These were some mostly farm folks representing farm interests that were on the panel, but again, talking about their efforts to understand what the other organizations' goals were, and in their essential philosophy, if you will, was that if one of the organizations is proposing something that does not negatively impact the work that another organization is trying to do or attempting to do, then the group as a whole would support that effort regardless of whether they were actually particularly involved or not, and that was a way of showing stronger unity and support across the spectrum, and particularly when it came to talking to both legislators in Sacramento as well as Washington, D.C. So a lot of focus for me, at least, on the Delta and the importance of the Delta and the importance of having better cooperation between competing interests and better understanding amongst them. And that concludes my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ortega. And that takes us to number 11, Director's Comments Requests. Director Gracia.
I'm not sure how I want to approach this, but the good news is I didn't die in the bomb. The bad news is I almost did. I was heading out to Snow Creek to deliver lunch for some people. I passed by that site minutes, I guess, before that went off. And on my return, which was an exact, I didn't even get out of the car, came back down Palm Canyon, and 5 minutes before I got to it, it exploded. And as I pulled up on it, I saw people milling about out in the street. I thought, well, that's weird. That I passed by there a lot. I'd never seen anybody ever in that area. So I slowed the car down and started realizing something had happened. And I rolled the window down and asked the fella. He said a bomb went off. And my instant reaction was, oh, baloney. And so I talked to him for probably a minute, and then slowly continued on looking at the damage, trying to figure out what did happen. I never looked over to the right. I passed by the body, within feet, never looking over to see what happened on that side of the street. I was trying to figure out because I assumed it was a natural gas explosion. But when I was able to get a side view of that building that did get bombed, I knew that was not a gas explosion because the impact went inward and the building was still standing. I've seen where natural gas explosions just turn the place into toothpicks. Anyway, I realized that guy was right. The bomb had gone off, and I decided, okay, secondary explosives, and by then it was a traffic jam. Before I got, to the next block, there were cars everywhere. No real police or fire anywhere. Anyway, it was a traumatic event for everybody except me because I was so stunned by everything that was kind of happening so fast. I didn't really, until the next day I realized, what those people and businesses are going through right now is, it's kind of scary for them. I know that they're trying to, put new windows in. But when I looked across and saw all the windows exploded out of that liquor store and then could see through to Desert Hospital, and the entire front of that office building, the windows were all gone. It was just the oddest thing. I've been into disaster scenes, I don't know, a lot of them, but never a bombing, and that was quite a wake-up call. But so with that, I just want to say to those that are affected, like the chief said, stay strong. That's it.
Director McKenna?
I just want to comment on this urban agricultural split in the water industry. That keynote speaker came from the Family Farm Association. I thought his remarks were full of inaccuracies and misinformation, starting with a quote he gave that the United States is the only country that's completely self-sufficient in food. I fact-checked that. Australia is, Afghanistan is, Argentina is, and I stopped at that point because only at the A's. California now is said to have a $4.1 trillion economy on an annual basis. The governor says 4.1. Some statistics say 3.6. Don't know why it's different. Agriculture is a $55 billion industry in California. That's less than 2%. The growing of alfalfa is a $1.5 billion business, and that's 2% of agriculture. So the 2% of the 2%, we use 3.4 million acre feet a year growing alfalfa. And when a speaker gets up and says, if you like milk, you better like alfalfa, I think it's a really facile argument. I mean, I like driving, but I don't want to choke on exhaust fumes. We can do both. But that industry is wasting a huge amount of water. He also said, oh, it's good for the air quality. Well, I've watched them harvest that product. It's not good for the air quality. They turned it over 2 weeks later, they created another dirt devil. When I was in Calipatria with a documentary film crew, the air quality was awful. And it was primarily due to the harvesting and turning over of alfalfa. It wasn't the salt and seed that was causing all the dust. So let's fact check these people when they come up with this information. 3.4 million acre feet. We could support another 19 million people in California with that. I'm not thinking that's a good idea, but the scale of the problem we have with water would be an order of magnitude less if we weren't growing that crop. Thanks.
I do not have any comments or requests. Thank you.
None from me. President Ortega?
No, thank you.
Then what we will do is we will adjourn to closed session. It's now about 9:06. Let's meet at 9:15 in our closed session meeting chambers. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Got out of closed session, and I have to report, nothing is reportable. And I'd like to say it's been my honor today to chair this meeting, as President Ortega has been out of town, but joining us remotely. Everybody have a great day and safety. Thank you.